Music is a difficult thing to talk about, at least in my opinion. What you enjoy out of music, what sounds you enjoy, is so subjective that it's really hard to describe what qualities make an album good or bad, and there's absolutely no point in even trying to be objective. If you hyper focus on like one genre or one micro genre, then you could talk about specific qualities that contribute to what that genre is trying to achieve, but I'm not someone who sticks to one genre. At the end of the day, the best that I can do without any formal training is kind of vague gestures at what it sounds like, what each song or album sounds like, and a vague, do I like it or do I not like it? Maybe I could throw in some words like pacing, repetition. Ultimately, this is just going to be a ramble of songs I listen to, or rather, albums I listen to in 2025. This is being recorded on December 29th, so there's a chance that I sneak in one or two more right before the finish line, but it's close enough that I feel like where I'm sitting now is where I'm sitting now. In 2025, or rather in late 2024, I got a job, the kind of job where I could have music playing in the background, and that kind of opened the floodgates for me to actually fully dedicate time to exploring music, whereas before I would mostly just be very occasionally listening to albums and just kind of listening to songs on shuffle in a mega playlist, and new additions to that were mostly just individual songs that were recommended to me on YouTube or I found in the background of a video or something like that. So I'm kind of taking the hobby a lot more seriously now. I've been cataloging things on Rate Your Music and stuff. In 2025, I listened to I finished and rated 133 albums. There were some more albums that I didn't finish and didn't bother rating because it's not fair to give an album you didn't finish a definitive rating. And I didn't finish those albums because I probably just wasn't into them for one reason or another. The first, I want to say third of this year, I mostly spent just kind of fleshing out what I already knew, or rather exploring what I already knew. Like I would have a bunch of songs from a certain album or a bunch of singles from a certain artist without ever listening to the full album. So I just spent the first third of the year kind of going through a lot of the artists I thought I liked and listening to the full albums, listening to all these songs in their full context. And, learning about whether I really enjoyed these artists as much as I thought I did. As it turns out, most albums that were produced before the streaming era weren't very good. They were mostly the singles and then a bunch of filler to pad out the album. 3 to 4 good songs per album was pretty typical, with the rest just being kind of repetitive, nothing really stand out, just kind of playing within their sound. Green Day was an artist that I considered one of my favorites before, and that was before I realized that outside of their rock operas, they kind of do that thing I just said where they make really good singles and then the rest of their album is just blah, whatever, generic, whatever their sound is. Not to say that the only thing I got value from were the literal singles. I use single as a more loose term to mean a song that is better than everything else by obvious margin. More standout, unique sound, more effort put into it, more developed, whether they were literally released as a single or not. Past that, I started exploring the genres that I could kind of actually fully say that, okay, yes, this is a genre that I'm interested in. Primarily psych rock, psychedelic rock is, the big one for me. Hashtag King Gizzard fan. King Gizzard has been my favorite artist since I first discovered them. They kind of got me into being a music nerd in the first place. The fact that every album of theirs does something entirely different and every song on each album is also exploring a unique thing within the unique thing that the album is really what I was looking for back then, and it's still something I really value nowadays. So, of course, the psychedelic sound is just something I really love as well. So I spent a lot of time searching through the psychedelic classics early on, got Cream, The Doors. I did not touch the Beatles. I don't want to touch the Beatles for no real reason other than I don't want to be a Beatles fan because that sounds icky. Yeah, as I discovered, as with most things, the peaks of the genre aren't reflective of what every album is going to sound like. Cream and The Doors, Disraeli Gears, and The Doors self-titled were the ones I listened to them by them. The Doors, oh god, that was just a not interesting album. There's one song I liked off of it, and everything else was just Disraeli Gears was also just incredibly boring. Grateful Dead, another one. They are okay. I did not mind listening to them, but nothing really grabbed me. Anthem of the Sun, I think, is the one I listened to them. Certainly decent at jamming. Jamming is a big thing for me. A lot better than the very repetitive structural Doors and Cream songs that I heard. But otherwise, yeah, I just didn't really have a reason to go to Grateful Dead over anyone else who was better. Pink Floyd, I hit a lot of the important notes of Pink Floyd. I hit a lot of the important notes of Pink Floyd beforehand, but, I really pushed that. They're okay. I think Pink Floyd is good, but not nearly as good as a lot of people say, but I do understand and appreciate that they were actually pretty ahead of their time. I was just a little spoiled in that I had King Gizzard, the peak of all music, to introduce me to the psych rock genre and jamming in general. Outside of psych rock, I explored a lot of post-rock, the broad umbrella of post-rock. This included a lot of post-punk revival, post-metal. Standout from that is Boris. Boris is great post-rock, post-metal, drone metal. I'm not going to call everything they've made or everything I've explored good. They're actually kind of hit or miss. But when they get something good going, it's like really, really good. Flood was last year. A lot of Boris was last year. A lot of Pink Floyd was last year as well, but I kind of went a little further with them this year. Untitled off the album Smile by Boris. It's great. There's a couple tracks off of Akuma no Uta. I cannot pronounce things in languages I don't speak. Pink Floyd, Adam Hart Mother, the song, not the album, was really great. That was, really enjoyed that. I'm kind of bouncing around here a little bit. I found out that post-rock as a concept is something that in theory could give me a lot, but in practice many bands aren't actually doing what I want to hear from music, not because they're bad at it, but mostly because they're not providing what I'm wanting out of it. The one exception to this, other than Boris, that I found is Codename Dustsucker by Bark Psychosis is probably the best example of post-rock that I could find for myself. I also got pretty into a lot of Latin rock, Latin-inspired rock, Latin jazz, jazz rock, those kind of sounds with Santana was a major one. I absolutely fell in love with Santana. They also had the psych rock thing going on, and they are the only other people besides King Gizzard that really went in on the jamming in a way that I really, really liked. I fell in love with Santana pretty much instantly. I listened to the first 4 albums by them this year. Their 4th, Caravanserai, wasn't great. It was decent, but their first 3 were absolutely phenomenal. Outside of Santana, the Candelabro album from this year, Deseo Carne Voluntad, that might be my album of the year, actually. That was, pun not intended, almost a religious experience with how beautiful that album is. I don't understand the language. I want to make that very clear that I do not understand the lyrics of these Spanish albums, but just the way that the emotions developed were absolutely incredible. The sounds that they put forth are completely up my alley. It's kind of everything I want out of music. If you're not familiar with them, I'd say they're kind of in the realm of the first 2 Black Country New Road albums, which is another pivot I'm gonna get to in a little bit here. But Latin rock, Café Tacuba, I listen to Re and Revés Yo Soy. Sorry, I always feel terrible not knowing that I'm butchering these pronunciations, but those were great. I absolutely adored how much variety and energy they put forth on those projects. Yeah, I don't know, those were really fun. I listened to more that I didn't really click with. Spinetta, I didn't really click with. Very recently, I listened to, oh god, please don't kill me for this, La Máquina de Hacer Pajaros Peculiares. Sorry, no more apologizing here. That was a lot of fun. Latin rock has a lot for me, and I'm excited to explore more of that. Do you have more to say on that note? Not really. Oh, Soft Machine is something I explored a bit. They are this psych rock kinda jazz, mostly jazz outfit. I only really fucked with their first 2 projects, and then after that they got way more boring and took themselves too seriously. Oh, while I'm still talking about genres, completely forgot, in the realm of psych rock, I explored a bit of psychedelic porn crumpets. A few of their albums, actually. There was... I have everything in front of me here. High Visceral, parts 1 and 2. Shiga, The Sunlight Mound, and Carpe Diem Moon Man. I'm gonna hit up Pogo Rodeo. Why did I say it like that? Pogo Rodeo early next year. Psychedelic Porn Crumpets is a band that is so close to being something that I could absolutely love, but just isn't quite there. Like, they're just good. They're so close to being something I would absolutely fall in love with, but at the end of the day, I could only really call them just good, and I can't really tell you what that je ne sais quoi is that they're missing for me. Oh yes, Atmospheric D&B is a fun little, like, really small diversion, but it is something that I was like, hey, this is a sound that I like, because I played Straftat and that sound was really fun, so I listened to a little bit of that. As it turns out, most atmospheric D&B is too atmospheric for my tastes. It was really just the person who made the Straftat songs that I was really into, Excelio. But, you know, that was a fun thing. Alright, let's see. That's mostly it for the genres front that I want to talk about. The standout artists, I have King Gizzard obviously written here. They had Phantom Island come out this year, which is absolutely phenomenal. Phantom Island was an absolutely phenomenal album. I listened to it so many times. Like, I don't want to get too deep into it. I'm an absolute fucking nerd for King Gizzard, but it is some of the best work they've ever put out, in my opinion. That is a contender for Album of the Year. It's either that or Carne Voluntad. Santana, I already mentioned Santana. Santana 3 is probably my favorite, followed by Abraxas, then Santana self-titled, and then Caravanserai. Standout tracks, if you want, is, I don't know, just all of Santana 3, and then, like, the first 3 tracks of Santana Abraxas. I almost called it Santana 2. Their cover of Stoneflower is great as well. Godspeed You, Black Emperor, in the post-rock explorations. I understand why they're, held up like they are. I can't say that I love them. Like, even at their peak, I kind of feel like Boris's peak is just giving more for me. But I cannot deny that there's some really good stuff in there. I listened to F Sharp A Sharp Infinity, the big one, what's it called? Raise Your Skinny Fist Like Antennas to Heaven, and the new one, the as of February 2023, whatever, Untitled. It's called No Title, and then Palestinian Genocide Numbers. That album, the new one, No Title, the one that has hard to memorize name, that one's probably my favorite as a complete project. My favorite of individual work from them is Sleep off of Skinny Fists, which, obviously, if you're familiar with their work. Don't have too much to say else on the matter there. Soft Machine I already mentioned. Boris I already mentioned. Yes. Glass Beach. Glass Beach, the first Glass Beach album is... You're either gonna not get it, or you're gonna get it. And I'm someone who gets it. It is music made for a very specific type of person, and I am that specific type of person. So, if you are one of those people, I don't need to tell you why the first Glass Beach album was so phenomenal to me. Very, very, very important album that I will hold in my heart for a very long time. If you are wondering what the fuck I'm talking about and don't understand a single thing, it's trans girl music. specifically a type of trans girl who kind of grew up on the internet because they couldn't find community in person. Their second album, Plastic Death, was not it. It just was not what I was looking for. It was very dissimilar to their first, and I would never want to discourage artists from playing outside of what they've done before. I kind of hate how often artists are punished for doing something different. But the execution was just poor, in my opinion. It was kind of just a loose grab bag of different wide rock umbrella tropes that weren't really blended well. The album didn't really progress in a way that felt impactful or meaningful. It was very mopey in a way that I didn't like. It was very amateurish. The first Glass Beach album also had that amateurishness to it, but it was wielded in a way that was very heartwarming and added to the experience, a very charming way. Whereas Plastic Death was the opposite, where it kind of just felt like, okay, you are kind of just not really providing much here. So yeah, that was a bit disappointing, but whatever. Oh, 21 Pilots. They have been making moves recently, and Blurry Face is embarrassingly an album that I do hold a lot of nostalgia for. So I kind of went through not all of their discography, but a lot of their discography, because I never really heard anything outside or after Blurry Face. And gotta say, Trench is mid as fuck. Very boring album. Clancy was a step in the right direction, and Breach was like good enough for me to actually call it good. I feel like they have this problem where they let people bully them into making different types of music, whereas I believe that their most embarrassing songs are their best work, because I don't know, there's something amazing about it coming from the heart. The lack of shame, the dorkiness of it all. And they just keep letting themselves get bullied into making more boring and standard music, which sucks. So, yeah, that was something. Squid is another one of my favorite bands. They released early in this year Cowards, their third studio album, and it is, in my opinion, their best album yet, as a whole album experience. If you're just looking into bands for picking individual songs off and putting them in a playlist, their first album, Bright Green Field, is still better for that purpose because it has more frequent highs. But as an album experience, Cowards is absolutely phenomenal. Amazing development, great pacing. It establishes a lot of motifs and explores them later on, and just the concept of it is amazing. I'm not gonna say I love every track. I think Blood on the Boulders is a little weak. The title track is a little weak. Showtime is a song that I want to skip for the first half of that song, but they have some extremely potent, powerful moments on that album that I just, it's extremely, extremely good. I really fuck with it. I really want to kind of discuss the themes and stuff that are going on in Cowards in further depth one day, but right now I'm just saying albums I liked from this year, that I listened to from this year. I should make that clear. It's probably obvious at this point after saying a bunch of old ass bands that I listened to, but whatever. I think the last thing on my list here is Gorilla Toss's 2025 album, You're Weird Now. The more I listened to it, the more I appreciated it. I was like, when I first listened to it, I was like, oh, this is fun. This is a fun thing that people like me could get a lot out of, but it might not be that much to people who aren't me. But the more I listened to it, the more I appreciated its depth. It is a sort of retro revival that takes a lot of like 80s sort of aesthetics and modernizes them, but it doesn't do it in a shallow way. It's not like a shallow 80s pop things. It's a very modern production with dense, layered, very detailed and intricate. They spent a lot of time, they obviously spent a lot of time fleshing these songs out, making sure they were as good as they could be, making them sound like something more than just 80s aesthetics. And they bring in a lot of different sounds too. And it's not just 80s, but it is 80s focus with other sort of retro things thrown in there a lot of the time. You got a bit of psych rock in there, some techno, some kind of like a clubhouse vibe on some of the songs. A lot of like, I don't know, they bring in a lot of different things. They bring a lot of things to the table, and I absolutely love the vocalist too. The lyrics have this happy-go-lucky, kind of carefree vibe to them, but are still bringing actual good messages and writing in general to the table, which is great. It was a really, really good time, and I'm really loving that album, and it is an absolute highlight for me this year. I do feel like the album kind of drops off in quality in the second half. Deep Sight, Crocodile Cloud, the other one I can't remember the name of. Basically everything after Pangloss and Mannequin. That is a weird name. There's like a 3-song stretch in there that are just not bad, not even like out of place. Like they make sense for the pacing of the album, but they're just not nearly as strong. It feels like they brought out hit after hit after hit for the first like 5 or 6 tracks, and then you just have not necessarily extras, but not as hitting tracks after that. And then the closer is good as a closer. It's very good as a closer, and it's better than the songs that precede it. Not sure if it's on the same level as the first half of the album, but it's definitely I'd say it's not as strong as the first half of the album, but it's still on that same playing field. So let's talk about physical music for a second. I actually, Christmas last year, 2024 Christmas, I got a couple of vinyls. Or is it 2023? I don't know. I don't honestly remember fully. But I've had a couple vinyls sitting on my shelf for a year or two now, and I decided to actually make something of it. So I bought a vinyl player and went to a used record store and started asking people for vinyls as gifts. So now I've expanded it to a decent collection. Kind of small collection still, but... So what kicked things off last year was Nonagon Infinity by King Gizzard, obviously. Petrodragonic Apocalypse by King Gizzard. And then this year, in the used record store, I found the first 4 Santana records, very lucky find, for very good prices, and then Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd, which is some of Pink Floyd's best work, and it is absolutely stellar on vinyl. So that's been fun. And then this recent Christmas, I got 2 more King Gizzards, of course. Phantom Island, this year's album, and then I'm in Your Mind Buzz, which pairs very well with Nonagon Infinity, and also some of their best work, which is why I asked for it. Other than that, I guess I could just flash my Rate Your Music 2025 specific albums. These are all the 2025 all the albums that came out in 2025 that I rated this year. It's not really a very good list. You may notice that 2 of these are jokes. One of these is a studio set from '96 that was re-released in 2025. A lot of these weren't rated very highly. The Mango Sticky Rice by King Gizzard is not really an actual album so much as it's just like an experimental side release that got no fanfare. But aside from that, I feel like I have some explaining to do. Geese's Getting Killed is an album that I had mixed feelings on. I do not like their vocalist. It is a strain to listen to more than 2 or 3 songs in a row for me. In terms of what they're doing instrumentally, I felt like they could put down some really interesting grooves, but then they went nowhere with them, which is how I feel about a lot of music in general. Or rather, a lot of music in the genres I like in general. Like a lot of post-rocks and a lot of psych rocks like to put down a really interesting groove and then just do nothing with it for 4 minutes and kind of just sit with the same thing for 4 or 5 minutes, which I don't like. Oh, did I not mention Black Country New Road? Oh my god, I forgot to talk about Black Country New Road. So I listened to the one that everyone knows, Ants From Up There. Ants From Up Here, Ants From Up There, I can never remember. I can't say that I love every single track on that, but as a narrative, it is, like as a full album experience, it is absolutely beautiful, absolutely heart-wrenching. It scratches an itch musically that no other album really does, and it has, like, I want to say 3 or 4 all-timer songs on it, even if I do feel that some of the tracks are kind of weak. So absolutely deserving of all the praise it gets, in my opinion. And then their first album is way more up my alley, although it doesn't feel as complete as Ants from Up There. What's their first album? For the First Time? That's what it's called. Good first album name. That sound, that is a sound that I could fall in love with, that they got on there. I don't know. It's a very quintessential Marcy, by the way, hi, album. That sort of sound. So, yeah. The instrumental opener was amazing. The Sunglasses, fucking amazing. Science Fair was fucking amazing. Opus is amazing, although I feel like it slightly annoys me that they didn't finish. That's a weird way. I don't know the actual theory terms, but it feels like they could have played one more note to finish the chord. I don't know if that's what's actually going on, but the last song ends and it feels like there should be one more note and there isn't, and that bugs me. The other two songs, I can't remember off the top of my head. It's like something about Paris or France or something. Hold on. Athens, France. Still good, not as strong as the others. And then track X's filler. Track X is just why is this here? So yeah, a lot of good things going on this year. Music is good. I feel like I should make some conclusive thoughts here, but all I could really say is that my favorite albums were like Phantom Island, You're Weird Now, Deseo Carne Voluntad, and Cowards, and For the First Time, even though that didn't come out in 2025. Oh, and the First Class Beach album.